Welcome. I think we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm Rebecca. I'm the communications lead here at Round Sky Solutions. Thanks for joining us for a session on somatic practices to embody facilitator growth. We're going to be very much in our bodies today, intentionally in our bodies. And just some quick logistics. We're a small group here, which is great. Feel free to ask questions and chat in the chat box and use this space as is helpful, and more engagement, the better. We have a set time at the end for questions and getting into some of this. So if we don't get to it right away, know that we will. As you know, it's being recorded for the conference, so it'll be shared at with the organizers, the conference organizers, and get ready to move, basically. So before we get started, I like to always just share a little bit about who we are as an organization. I think that can be helpful to know who's talking to you. Round Sky is a remotely operated worker-owned co-op, meaning we're a business where the workers own it together, and we really focus in on two main training areas when we think about developing leadership. That is one, tools and processes that we teach under CoLab, which is super similar to Sociocracy. And even if, let's say that these tools were perfect, or Sociocracy had the perfect tools, that wouldn't really matter. I'm not saying that exists or that they are, if we didn't have the second piece, which is tending to personal development. And part of that for us is tapping into our bodies intentionally through somatic practices, and which can help us show up for ourselves, for our team, in the ways that we want to, and help us redirect when we get out of line, when harmful dynamics show up. So those are things that are on our mind, and I want to give us some time to get to know who's on the call, and maybe we can unmute ourselves. Actually, I think we have time for that. So if you're willing to share a bit about yourself, your name, pronouns, if that feels comfortable, the area you're calling in from, and an organization, if that's relevant for you, and most importantly, what brought you here today. And I can start. So and you can put in the chat box too if you want, but I'd love to hear your voices. I'm Rebecca. She, hers works great for me. You know, I'm with Round Sky Solutions. I live in New Orleans. I'm originally from California. And what I'm excited about is I'm sensing more and more the ways that my body supports me and tells me important information before I even like cognitively know it. And I'm excited to kind of get into that today and show up better basically. And I'll pass it to Daniel, and then we'd love to hear from you all.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. I'm Daniel Little. I'm also here at Round Sky, one of the founders and one of the main instructors currently on our programs. And I live on unceded Abenaki Nation territory, which is in northern Vermont, and here in the United States. Yeah, my passion is really helping people learn and grow and heal, even with somatic approaches to mindfulness and building our capacity as people and as cooperators. Yeah. I'm really glad to be here for this session today to explore some of the ways that we can use our body as a resource to really take care of ourselves and take care of each other, you know, in our group process. Yeah, so thank you. Should I just pass it to someone else? Yeah. Lane, would you be willing to speak back to you know, say hi?
Yeah, I'm Lee. My pronouns are they, them. I'm in Toledo in the so-called state of Ohio. I'm a member of SOFA, and I'm also in a sociocratic co-living community. And yeah, I'm excited to know more about like somatic practices in general, because I see they have like I think like a lot of like the damage that trauma does like lives in our bodies, and so like I see like potential for like somatic practices and like working through that and getting better at like working through like trauma responses and triggers and like connecting with people more authentically. But it's also like a thing that like I haven't really found time to prioritize. So I was like very happy to see that there was something at the social conference that I think will be useful in that regard. Oh, should I pass it on to Crystal?
Sure thing. Yeah. Hey everyone, Crystal Arnold, she, her pronouns. I live in Southern Oregon now, but grew up in Vermont. And I've worked at the Post Growth Institute for 5 years now as education director. And in a couple hours, I'm running an offers and needs market here for the SOFA conference. And so we do facilitator trainings for people in this process, and always love to bring in the somatics, and I'm really happy to kind of learn some techniques here today, and really excited to get moving with you all. Thanks.
Nice. Thanks. Welcome. How about you, Allison?
Hi, everybody. Allison, she, her pronouns, on Haudenosaunee Onondaga land in Syracuse, New York. I work with the Syracuse Community Choir and various other organizations. So interested to see what aspects of this whole conference we can bring to our choir. And I was interested in this session. My take on it, well, so I know a lot of people who are involved in activism and in various really awesome organizations who also within their daily lives get really burnt out. And so I'm assuming that some of what is here might be useful for counteracting that. So interested to see.
Nice. Thanks. Welcome. And I think that's all of us, actually. So great. Well, glad that you all are here. I think you're in the right place. And Daniel's going to share a little intro to somatics with us, just so we know that we're all talking about the same thing here. It's a big field. So pass it to you, Daniel.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So why somatic practices? As facilitators and cooperators in the circles that we're a part of, I feel like this is a key capacity that we can bring to ourselves, is this somatic awareness. I think of somatics as the study and practice of tuning into and working with our bodily experience and becoming more able to regulate our nervous systems. And while there's a lot of current interest and research about this, from neurobiology to nervous, anyway, all those kinds of stuff, right? It's really an ancient, it's like one of the oldest technologies in a sense around, right? Like to pay attention to ourselves and learn how to move in ways that feel better and regulate ourselves, it's kind of like a no-brainer in a certain way, right? But on the other hand, it's something that we've like, oh, that's funny, it was a joke and I didn't even realize, no-brainer. Yeah, we interact with life through our bodies and through our nervous systems. And so having ways to notice and adjust our ways of being in our bodies is a vital part of showing up with more effectiveness and more ability to connect to ourselves and to our work and to each other. Yeah. One of the things that's gotten really clear in recent years of research on our nervous systems is that we function best when we're in like the social engagement nervous system, right? And we don't need to go into all the details of that, but if we're in that social engagement nervous system, we're more open, we're more curious, we're more able to hear each other, we're more able to like take in other perspectives. But if we get into kind of a triggered response of some sort, like our defensive reactions of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, that kind of traumatic, responses, either just because we're overstressed in the moment or because of, our history, et cetera, which, our culture, like all the things that, inform that, then it just becomes really, really, really hard to listen and work with each other and to even just like take care of ourselves. So it feels really important to learn how to be really well in our bodies or recover from times when we do get disrupted, in order to be able to function in a cooperative way. It just feels, this seems really vital, very, very baseline. So yeah, so I have these like I was thinking about I've been thinking about somatic practices, and there's a lot of different approaches to working with our body, and I wanted to highlight three kind of like modalities in a sense that I'm thinking of around somatics right now. The first mode is just like grounding and becoming present. These are practices that help us drop into the moment and find out what's resourceful for us to, in a sense, literally and metaphorically feel our feet under us, in a sense, like that sense of being grounded and present. Another, and all these kind of interweave with each other, of course, but the next thing I wanted to call out was kind of a mindfulness, a somatic mindfulness practice, basically, like noticing what's going on, what's happening inside our body and minds. And how can we take a compassionate and mindful approach to seeing what that current state of our bodies and nervous systems is? And what can we learn from that? Is there information there for us that we can, in a sense, harvest from the body's wisdom, in a sense, or just whatever's going on with it, that we can bring forward to help ourselves or to, contribute to our teams? Yeah. And lastly, there's a whole series, whole sets of practices about changing our state. Like, how do we adjust and deliberately shift ourselves from where we are to some other place that we feel like would be more resourceful or more useful or more something, just different than where we're at the moment, that we're in a way that's could be good for us. And so that state changing is a really useful practices. It could be just like standing up or stretching our arms if we feel we need permission to take up more space, just like, okay, like, I'm feeling a little squeezed. How can I like expand a little, or something, right? So this can be super simple or more complex, but the basic idea of like shifting our state into a new resourceful place. And all of that, can help us, over the long run. The idea of creating somatic practices that we engage in regularly is that we can turn these transitory states into enduring traits. We can like begin to develop our own capacities in such a way that we have easier access to resourceful and useful states of being in our bodies and in our soma, that we can draw on as needed for our life and work. So that's kind of my little intro. If you're willing to do this with me, I just want to try some things. I want to try out these modes in a little like guided, practice, basically, right? So I'll offer some guidance, some suggestions, some ideas, some prompts. But please adapt this in ways that work for you. You know your own body best, and and what works for you and what doesn't. And we'll go through those three kind of modes in a sense. First, we'll do some grounding and grounded and present, and then we'll do some like just noticing of what's happening, what's going on, and then we'll do some like shifting and changing and try some things that might move us in different directions in our current state of being. Okay. All right, ready? Okay, deep breath. Okay, some somatic practice already. So yeah, so this is good. I'm ready to get grounded and present. I'm a little like nervous maybe from like presenting and talking, So the first practice, just grounding. I really like to feel my feet under me. You can keep your eyes open or closed, but just generally kind of soft gaze if you have your eyes open, not focusing on anything, really just turning your attention inward a bit. And yeah, I like to feel my feet on the ground. You can try that if you like. I like to feel that subtle squish, like the balls of my feet and my heels, just the way that they compress slightly into the ground. And that sense of like I can feel the weight of my legs resting on my feet. Yeah, you might notice as well the surface that you're sitting on and leaning against, and just these grounded, kind of stable objects in life that we can kind of rest into. Yeah, I really like to notice that sense of like, oh, I'm being held up, I'm being supported, I'm, the earth and these kind of predictable objects in the room have got me in a way that's helps build this sense of safety, and I'm present to just, what that feels like. And you might notice that your breath is shifting a little without even noticing. For me, it's gotten a little deeper, a little fuller. I'm not trying to shift it per se, but just that sense of paying attention to my groundedness is, the whole body is relaxing a bit. You can see that these practices all overlap. In a sense, this is also a state changing, practice, because we're going from wherever we were to just a more present and, to ourselves place. One of the other things about being present is orienting to our environment, the sense of like we're here in this space. So I invite you to like just softly open your eyes if you've had them closed, and just looking around and being present with what's in the room. You might notice, the color of something, an object on your desk or your table or whatever, or across the room, or something out the window. In my case, I can see the early spring bare trees outside of my window. So yeah, so here we are, in a sense, present. So that's the first, one of the first uses of this somatic awareness, right? It's just like to arrive. And I often like to start meetings with just this little, just a moment, even shorter than this one we just did, just a moment to arrive and get present with each other. The other thing that we could do is this noticing practice. And so I invite you again to kind of just turn your attention gently inwards and like, what do you notice about your body right now? Are there places where you feel relaxed and open, grounded, something that feels kind of pleasant? And yeah, maybe let's just notice that first. Is there anything that feels decently good or neutral in your body that you could just turn your attention towards? Just noticing that. Maybe taking a breath with that part of your body. For me, I'm kind of noticing that in my spine, my back, and resting against the chair, just noticing that. We also might notice some distress or some tensions, things like that. So no, yeah, that's also a good thing to pay attention to. Like what's tense? What else is going on? Is there some aches or pains? Just kind of taking those in as well. Sometimes if I'm getting ready for a meeting and I'm just checking in with myself, I might notice that I'm tense in a certain way or something like that. And then I start to associate, oh, like, well, what comes to mind? Like, so you might inquire like of some tense part of your body, just like, just kind of as if you're talking to it, like, hey, what's going on? Is there anything you want to tell me? Kind of aspect of like talking to yourself a bit. Maybe some information comes out. Yeah. So that's that listening mode in a sense, right? Just kind of taking it in, noticing and listening what's going on in your own experience, in your own bodily experience. And this could be really useful for gathering information about how you want to be, or information for like this next step of changing our state, like in what ways might be useful to shift in this moment to be more ready for what we're actually facing in our work or environment, etc. So let's try this state changing thing. Let's say we want to upregulate our state. Just really simply, we can think about, we can think at least in two directions. We can upregulate and downregulate in a sense, like our nervous system, right? We can get more excited, amplified, energetic, or we can get more relaxed and calm and kind of, settled. Yeah. So if we wanted to upregulate our nervous system, what helps you feel alive and energized? Can you, in your mind, maybe recall a time when you were really like happy and excited? Just take a moment and see if you can kind of call back that sense of happy, joyful, excited, something that was positive and uplifting for you. Yeah, and maybe there's some way that you could move your body. Like, is there some posture you could take on, or some movement you could make right now that would kind of exemplify that thing, you know? I mean, for myself, I'm thinking about like last time I went dancing, and like I'm like wanting to move my arms and kind of just like, whoa, like, you know, disco dance posture or something. I don't know. And just like, what does that feel like, you know? So yeah, so I invite you to try that out, like move some part of your body. You can turn your video off if you feel shy, but just like move yourself in some way, like take on some posture, some movement that kind of has that upregulating, energetic, excited, or some other kind of like more up energy motion. Yeah. What does that feel like? Try that on. Just notice, what does that do for you? What changes? Yeah. Are there sounds? Woohoo. Yeah. All right. You know that you want to make, it goes along with that. You're all muted. You have to listen to me. Yeah. Whoo. Okay, that's great. So that's upregulating, right? And there's a lot of resource in like just having a higher state of energy, you know, whatever that we can apply to something, right? All right. So then, you know, shake that off a little, and let's try the down regulating. It's kind of more like what we were doing at the beginning, maybe, but let's make it more like specific to you. Like, again, imagine like sometime recently when you were actually really like just calm and relaxed. Like, can you picture a time, you know, in the last few days or whatever, that you felt calm and relaxed? Oh, yeah. And then just kind of like noticing what your body does as you remember that, this, you know, link between, you know, the imagination and the body. Yeah, and already I'm noticing, oh yeah, I'm taking a deeper breath, I'm sighing a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I'm imagining now, like I just like remembering, this was a while ago now, but remembering like, you know, a cat of mine I used to have that, you know, just like sitting on my chest, I'm laying on the couch, you know, just like, oh, like purring, you know, like, oh. And how would you move your body to exemplify that? What would be the posture of like really settling into a sense of, you know, really kind of relaxed and rested place? And just explore that for a moment. Cool. All right, well then you can kind of shake that off and just come back to whatever normal baseline is for you right now, and come on back to each other, to this sense of like, oh look at these people, and we had some more people show up in the middle too. It's magic. Like we have more people than when we started, and yeah, so that's great. I would love to hear like any reflections, like maybe if you wanted to just chat, type into the chat, like anything that, you know, any observations you had or insights that came from that. Just would love to hear any of that. And, but I'll turn it back over to Rebecca so we can just kind of go into the next practice where we'll do some work together.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. That was lovely. And I would love to continue this and to think about, give us a moment to think about a quality that maybe we had in mind when we thought about facilitator growth, or maybe that comes to mind now as you're exploring different upregulation or downregulation. There's also all the other ways that you could explore emotional qualities. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. All that calmness, forgot how to use Zoom for a second. Great. So one practice we like doing is naming a quality that if we had more of it in this moment, it would support us in some way. So if you want to connect it to facilitation, wonderful. If you want to connect it to just being existing, that's also welcome. And we came up with this little brainstorm of different qualities that we could tap into with different practices. So joy, That's something that I was thinking about on the upregulation. There's also patience, determination, gratitude, directness, clarity, creativity, surprise, the state of surprise. I want to add curiosity now that I'm reading that list. And just I'm offering a few ideas to think about what quality you might want to tap into with a somatic practice. What would be supportive for yourself? And I'll give us, if one of these isn't matching what you'd like to explore today, spoiler alert, we're about to get into your own somatic, kind of tapping into it in groups in a second. But think of it a quality you'd like to explore today. Something that feels safe, comfortable, or the right amount of stretch. And put it in the chat box if you're willing, or maybe put like, I have one. And it doesn't have to be from this list, it can be anything. It's nice. Clarity, creativity, contentment, openness, focus, excitement. And you're only committed to this for about 10 minutes. So it's not a long commitment. All right. Almost everybody put one in the chat box. So I'll trust that everybody has one for now. So the next step is we're going to turn this into our own exercise or practice of bringing attention to that quality, that state. And it's interesting because we often think about our bodies displaying emotions, but we don't think about how our bodies help us to create or cultivate that emotion, that inner experience, that we can kind of, maybe we say fake it till you make it, but just a sense of like tapping into how that could support us. And there's research that if we're smiling, it can make us happier, or if we're taking a strong stance, a power pose can make us feel more powerful or more confident. So there's lots of research. So let's play with this. And Daniel and I are going to share a little example about what you'll do in your breakouts, so you have a sense. So listen closely or watch. So Daniel, what is the quality that you had in mind for today?
I went with excitement. I've been wanting to like separate excitement from anxiety for myself. So like, what's just like for excitement feel like?
Nice. It's a good one. And do you have any ideas for how you want to do that in your body? How you want to tap into that?
Well, I was kind of inspired by my guided thing earlier when I was remembering dance and like just doing these kind of like kind of like dance power moves, like like woohoo, like right, like feeling that kind of up energy and aliveness. Yeah.
Nice. And you showed us. Thank you for showing us. Do you want suggestions about other practices also from the group? Do you want to add to this in any way, or does that feel pretty complete?
That feels good for me, but I would be curious to hear like what helps other people feel excited in a good way. Like how do how other people do that? Like am I, yeah. So if I don't know. Do you have any like quick like what makes you excited?
I was thinking like clapping, like the like energy to clap and then the sound that comes out.
Yeah.
That's something that I was thinking about. It could go multiple ways, but that feels exciting. Anybody else want to jump in with a excitement posture? Bouncing,
yeah,
like up and down.
Ooh, I almost feel like a kid too. And I've got one of those chairs that has a little bit of like the pneumatic thing in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're already doing it, but let's take a breath and try doing it together. And anybody who wants to join us, awesome. We're all in our small breakout group right now. So maybe show us which one you want us to do, Daniel.
Okay, how about this like woohoo, like yeah, woohoo! Excitement, like moving my arms,
Woo!
like dance move kind of thing, opening my hands. Yeah. All right.
Oh, hands open. Okay, hands open.
Yeah. Or not,
Nice.
you know, like to try it out. Like maybe it's the punching fist or maybe it's the like open hands. I don't know. See what
Thank you.
works. Cool. All right.
I'm
Yeah,
definitely feeling excited.
I'm so regular. I'm so like, woo, I'm giddy almost. That's great.
Yeah, you're taking great. That was the next question. How's that landing? You're feeling excited already, feeling giddy.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. That was fun.
You're welcome.
Nice. So now I'm going to pass it back to all of you. We're going to get in breakouts of 2 people in pairs and share with the other person what quality you want to practice. It doesn't even have to be the one you posted in the chat box earlier. And you have about 3 or 4 minutes each to explore that, share ideas for how you want to do it in your body, do the movement together, take a breath, see how it lands. Like, oh, actually that didn't make me excited. Or let's try something else and explore that together. So any questions before I put you in breakout rooms? You can unmute yourself and finding the breakout tab. All right. Create. Okay, I'm going to, there's going to be one group of 3. I'm going to open the rooms. See you soon. About 8 minutes. I'm going to set my timer.
It invited me to a room. Should I join it or should I not? No.
No, I made a group of 3, 2 and 3.
Okay, cool. Super. No,
Should we
I'll
stop
pause-
the
I'll
record
pause the
for
recording,
this?
yeah.
Wait. 54 seconds. Welcome back. I'm so curious to hear how it went. And we're going to hold kind of like a debrief / Q&A in a second. But before I do that, wanted to offer some more background on why we're even suggesting talking about emotional qualities. And Daniel, you're really good at making the connection between somatics and our personal development work. Or facilitator growth work, however you want to think about it. We like to be open-ended in some ways, but you want to share?
Yeah, because I was just thinking while you all were in the breakout rooms, like, what's the connection between like, okay, let's pick a quality and try to build it in ourselves in a sense. And I guess we've been keeping this like fairly positive, but on the other hand, like, we have a lot of, I like walking into a room and I'm supposed to facilitate or walking into a Zoom and like, I have anxieties, I have upsets, I have like times I get triggered, I have, any number of things that actually get in the way in a sense of, or even just that I'm okay, I'm neutral and I'm okay, but I could take it to the next level, in terms of like my ability to facilitate or my ability to participate really like fully. And so I guess the invitation about the qualities, I'm realizing that kind of the backstory to that is like, if, and the thing I was saying earlier, like for practicing certain states of being that, you know, over time they can become traits of our personality and of our being, in a sense, right? So who do we want and need in a sense to more fully just like be ourselves, but in a way that's really effective for us, you know? And so like for me, that thing about excitement, like I think part of the thing is like part of my personal development in a sense is my desire, like be able to be like high energy and excited without it also like bringing the anxiety along with it, in a sense, and just feeling like, oh, this is too much, you know, or something like that. So yeah, so what are the qualities of being those kind of like emotional states, in a sense, that are resourceful, that would help us be better facilitators, better participants, better able to like work in these participatory ways with other people. So that's the tie-in, I guess.
Thanks for that connection, Daniel. And I mentioned in the beginning of this session that we focus on the hard tools and also personal development, because, and somatics being part of that, because we're complex humans, and there's probably so many other layers you could bring into that. So I just want to, this is a short kind of workshop. We have a training that if you're interested in going deeper, that's welcome. We also have this free personal development worksheet, which could be a good way to explore the emotional quality and the why and what's behind your current practices and what could be for yourself. So I put that in the chat box. And I think, and any questions are welcome about that as well. But with that, we'll kind of open it up. I'm so curious to hear to see and maybe feel your somatic practice. Does anybody want to share what came out of that session for you? And you can just unmute your mic if you'd like. You can raise your hand if that feels more comfortable.
I will say it was just amazing how quickly our bodies can shift. The first one was like relaxation, satisfaction, and then I moved into creativity, and then we had like flirtatiousness as the final one. And so it was like just really amazing within a matter of a couple minutes, right? That and like I feel like having the group reflection and energy of everyone just kind of talking through it and doing it also amplifies that. So that was super fun. Thanks.
Nice. Are you willing to share any of those movements with us?
Sure. The creativity was like kind of electric and bubbling, you know, it was like a little bit like this with your hands, that was kind of like free flowing, generative, funness. Yeah. Thanks.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. How about from other folks? Maybe one more person.
All right, I'll go ahead. In the absence of anyone else. Yeah, we had a really great session as well. Both of us kind of landed on practices that helped us to de-escalate our own inner anxiety as facilitators. And so grounding was the quality that I called in. And what came to me in the moment was simply to put my hand on my solar plexus and allow myself to feel the weight of my hand against my solar plexus, so that I could be more in my body, and then simultaneously then begin to feel if I'm breathing shallowly or if I'm taking a full belly breath, to encourage myself to breathe more deeply. And I felt that this is something that I can do in Zoom meetings in particular, because, you know, it's below the screen. So I can just, you know, put my hands on my solar plexus and just feel grounded and present in the meeting. And in being present, it's really about being present to my task, my role as facilitator, the work that we're going to accomplish in this meeting. But at the same time, being present to everybody and being open to everybody. So just being grounded in the moment at that edge of this is emergent. We have our agenda, and we also have all these people that we want to be present to for who they are.
Mm.
So that's what allows me to be grounded. Yeah. The other practice, if we shared, was I thought this was really cool, so I hope it's okay to share it. Okay. But basically, it's like a butterfly hug. And when Lane said butterfly hug, Lane said that sometimes people think that that it involves a person-to-person hug, but in this case, it's like a butterfly has landed on you, and it's just kind of fluttering its wings on you.
Mm.
It's just a tapping, tapping. And so how nourishing that can feel, and how, for me, just very grounding as well. Yeah.
Mm.
Love it. Thanks for both.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. I started kind of strongly tapping, and I was like, oh no, butterfly, light tap. Different somatic practice. That's really beautiful. Nice. And any questions that people have, or curiosities? It doesn't have to be formulated necessarily. But I just want to make space for any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to share a different practice that you're thinking about or experience.
Yeah, or ways that you have worked with your bodies in your, facilitation or in your circles,
Mm.
other, ideas just to toss into the pot, just learn with each other. So yeah, any of that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so often if I'm doing a 2-hour virtual meeting, after the hour, we'll have a short break, and then we'll come back and do some kind of stretching exercise. And I'm curious if there's anything in particular you'd recommend. One of my favorites is like imagining you're picking apples and just having people like stretch, crossing their bodies, throwing their apples at friends, reaching on down to the ground. So I'm curious about any short, like few minute activities during a virtual meeting that you like to bring people back together with.
I haven't done this a ton, but I was just thinking also during the break, I was like, oh, when we come back and the music, and Rebecca was putting the music on, I was like, oh, dance parties, like coming back from breaks, like putting on danceable music during break times, and playing that either virtually or in person, like kind of, and then having a little bit of like dance, for a month. That's always so, if people are up for it, that's always such a, freeing and, fun way to be. Yeah.
Yeah. What about from other folks? Any other exercises or go-tos that you've experienced or facilitated or are thinking of?
I have attended a heart circle that my friend facilitates, and one of the things that they do when they begin is before we do shares, like each person picks an exercise to do, and so like we do a round, and like we all do like the exercise someone chose. So like sometimes it's like we do jumping jacks or squats or whatever, and like it helps like sort of prepare the body for sitting down and talking about like really intense stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's great. And there's something about doing things together that also creates the fabric of togetherness too, right? Like all the mirror neurons or whatever, like the sense of like seeing people doing what I'm doing somehow builds a certain like sense of community spirit in a certain way too. I imagine. I've experienced that, in my own, but
Yeah. Even going woohoo with you felt like like we created something there. I'm also thinking about someone came in today with the question around burnout and how somatics can support that. And I don't think it's the end all be all answer, but one of the things that we've done in our meetings is having a regular kind of, Daniel had mentioned this, a grounding at the beginning of each meeting, and having breaks within them, just allowing ourselves spaciousness in settings that feel like there's not enough time and not enough space, like building that in, because a minute really doesn't actually make that much difference, but it can make a big difference if it's a break. So that's one thing that I've been thinking about. But if other people have ideas around that also, we're all experiencing some sense of that, I think. Maybe not fully, but it's all around us in lots of ways. But if other people have ideas, that's something that I feel like we haven't mentioned too much today. Hug themselves. Nice.
Yeah, something that I do when in Sociocracy, we do these like rounds of clarifying questions and reactions, and I often add a somatic sensing round where you just like try to go into the space where, okay, so we have made this decision, it's maybe 2 weeks ahead in time. How would that feel in your body? How would you show up to a meeting knowing that, oh, we made this decision? And then that could be a guide of, okay, is this, adding to my workload? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel more connected to my circle? And just like exploring what shows up.
That's so cool. That's such a practical, I'm so glad you said that. Such a practical way of like putting into practice that like second mode that I was talking about, this like just sensing and noticing mode, and trying to find useful information, trying to gather, use it as a gathering of useful feedback for ourselves and for each other. That's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Nice. I think that's a really great place to start to transition to a quick close. I'd love to hear maybe like one word or movement from each person as a checkout. We'll do a round. We all know rounds here. Or a word or something, word, movement, or something you're taking away. I really want to hear all the things. So I apologize for extra confusion. You can pick one of the three, and I will start us. I'm taking this away, and I'm going to pass it to Allison, if you're willing, in a place to check out.
I genuinely feel contentment, which is what I aimed for. So thank you. I'll pass it to Sophie.
I feel so energized and happy, and that is just like how I wanted to leave this conversation. So thank you, everyone. And I'll pass to Marcelina.
I'm taking away that emotional states that are resourceful. I think, Daniel, you said that. And building in pauses into our meetings in order to take that resource. And I'll pass it over to Lane.
I caught my shoulders doing it just a moment ago, so I have. I'm going to share my happy wiggle with you.
Thank you. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, I'm feeling joyful connection, and for me, that would be just a big hug. Yeah, thank you. Daniel?
I'm feeling excited that you all came and that we had this fun time together in the middle of the workday, just being silly and playful and trying things.
Yeah, that's great. So good to meet you all. I'm going to put our emails on the screen so you have them in case you want to email us a video of a somatic practice, or words are fine too. Your choice. But those are emails: Rebecca@roundskysolutions.com and Daniel@roundskysolutions.com. It's been really great to be in space with you all today. enjoy the rest of your sessions.
Thank you.
Put some music to close us out. Let's see.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye.